and I'll add all the music and everything later.
You got it, man.
All right, here we go. Welcome into the Bite Meat podcast, and you guys should know this by now. We get the best of the best, and fortunate to do that. I am John Lopez. This is the Bite Meat podcast, brought to you every week by Texas Star Grill Shop, and we're going to head to Nashville. And Matt Bolus, if the pre-show was any indication, this is going to be a very, very entertaining episode for you guys, because we were talking about all kinds of stuff. By the way, don't order cannoli in Rome. Take it from me, and I took it from Matt. And the other thing that ingratiated him with me anyway is he said he went to UT, and I knew he wasn't talking about Texas. You know, so
wait, John, we're going to talk about that for a second too. Okay,
go ahead, Matt Bolus, 404 Kitchen, Nashville.
Before your intro's over, right? Because obviously I'm a University of Tennessee fan, and if people want to argue about the real UT or the you know, which is which, my only statement to that is Tennessee was a college before Texas was a state, right? And I looked this up to prove a point because I let a server round me up, and it was I think it was 100-year difference from when the University of Tennessee started. He goes, I don't want to hear this. It started as University of Seville. I was like, knock it off. It's when the school started, right? Just because, you know, Volkswagen's owned by BMW now doesn't make it a BMW. It's still a Volkswagen. Like, stop. But it's like 100 years difference between when the two schools started. So, yeah, when I say UT, it's definitely has nothing to do with the great state of Texas, which I do love.
Yeah, and we'll get to some of that.
Yeah, when it comes
we'll
to
get
schools,
some. But hey, you don't have to tell me about it. You can see that over my shoulder over here. It says Texas A&M on it. So you don't have. You're preaching to the choir here, but it is funny. Look, listen, Matt. For those who don't know, I want you to get into some of this, but just the peripheral of it. You've traveled all over the world. Obviously, grew up. I'm guessing with the passion, but of course went to culinary school. Influenced by some of the greats of the great. I believe you went to London Cordon Bleu. Do I have that correct?
I did. Yes, sir.
So fill in the blanks on the background, then we'll get into the nitty gritty here.
Well, you know, I didn't know I wanted to be a chef. Like you said, it was a passion, right? I lied to myself. I think as many people do in my generation, and I think even others before and after. That I was going to chase money. And in doing such, like I love mathematics. I love this classic movie called Wall Street.
Oh yeah.
And to me, that was it. You know, greed is good. Greed works. Greed, you know, greed. And that's I justified my education in my studying of finance and whatnot at UT. Because that's what I was going to do. I was going to have the big house on the lake and the house on the beach and the you name it, whatever.
Yeah. So
I learned to cook with my mom. My dad traveled a lot when I was growing up, and I don't remember exactly what I'd done, but I'm sure it was nothing good because I called her out of the blue as a young teen, like, hey, can I help you out around the house? While she was at work. And of course I'm thinking, she's like, what
what's going on?
What the hell have you done?
Yeah.
And she gave me the list of, hey, you could fold the laundry. I was like, ooh, that's not. You know, what about vacuuming the house? Like, oh, it's not exactly what I was thinking. And we kept going on. Finally, she said, you know, can you cook dinner before I get home? Yeah, all right. So I cooked spaghetti.
All right.
Italian. All right. And she got home while I was working on it. And I had done this actually the summer before at scout camp. And I can remember back then thinking about, hey, this tastes better than my mom's. And I don't know why it is. So she got home. I just browned off the meat. I hadn't added any salt or pepper or anything like that because I didn't know what I was doing. But I remember she made me drain the fat off, right? And so we're taking this pan and we're draining all the fat off. And I said to her, well, we didn't do this when we were at Camp Buck Tom's. She said, oh, okay. I'm just trying to teach you how to do it. Little pinch of salt, the sauce, gravy, whatever you want to call it, out of the jar, Prego, I'm sure. And it was fine, but I remember it lacked flavor. It didn't taste the same. And that started me on that one thought, like, what was it that changed things so much and I kept going back to that fat, and I didn't know what it meant. I kept going back to the fat. And so I just started playing around. Like I said, my dad traveled, my mom worked. And
so you were in.
Yeah, it became something that was fascinating to me. She had a boarding kennel. She had a client that raised his own English setters and would train them. And they were pointers. He was training them to flush quail. And so Jack decided to raise quail as well. And he called my mom one time and said, hey, do you think it's okay if Matt goes hunting with me? And it's 12 years old. This guy would come get me a couple of times a week, and I'd go out to his farm, which is 10, 15 minutes down the road. And he would show me, hey, the dogs are going to point, the bird's going to fly, pop.
Yeah.
I'd come home with grocery sacks full of quail. Man, they were great, John.
Oh my God.
My mom had those Cutco scissors. I don't know if your parents ever got. I remember the lady would come around and she cut a penny with them.
Yeah.
Man, they would lob a quail head off, just right.
Perfect.
And you squeeze the feet, boop, little body, no skin pop right out.
Yeah.
I'd breast them up, and my mom would stir fry quail and eggs, just did all kinds of stuff with it. And so it was always, hey mom, I want to try this. Or my mom would say, hey, I was always thinking about making this. Do you want to help me? And we just started cooking together, and it kind of became a passion. It got into high school, and it became I don't know, we would get together as a bunch of guys, and I'd be the one on the grill because it was assumed that I could cook. And looking back, obviously I could, but I didn't know it. It was just one of those, like, yeah, I guess, okay.
Yeah.
A way to fit in, a way to impress girls, whatever. And it did. It just became a passion. And I can remember I was working in Merrill Lynch. And I worked in restaurants all through college. I started at Merrill Lynch, and I would still fill in, Friday night. By the owner of the place would call and say, hey, Big Mike didn't show up for grill. Can you come in? Yeah, of course. Good days, I would go home and cook a big meal. Bad days, I go home and cook a big meal. And I remember one day, I was like, the hell with this. I hate this life. I actually hate it. I'd rather be scrubbing the floor at midnight with a bunch of pirates in a professional kitchen than I would doing this shit. I'm not passionate about it. I love mathematics. I love equations. I love, helping you figure out how to make money with your money, or how, to plan for retirement. But this sales and this pressure, and I just want to cook.
Yeah.
And so I did. I sold everything. I applied to a bunch of culinary schools, got accepted to Cordon Bleu in London, and took off.
Man, that is incredible. Now, I know there's a lot that we could go into on the past, but let's move forward now, because that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. Well, there's several, but for sure, finding the inspiration. Like, we do a lot of barbecue talk, and I know you're a live fire guy. So we'll get to that. But we also do other things that just kind of help people, get to another level and to test boundaries and to push boundaries.
Yeah.
It sounds like you were doing that, early on, but how do you, how do you keep going to do that? Is this just something that you find inspiration here and then you just cook, or what can you tell our listeners about that?
Absolutely. I, first of all, I'll taste anything. And my mom still laughs at me. She caught me when I was young. I'd smell vanilla, and I'm like, this smells good. And I asked my mom, can I taste it? She said, no. She didn't tell me because it's, 800% alcohol or whatever. But and I'm sure plenty of kids out there, but mom was gone, and I was like, whoop.
Yeah.
But I taste everything. I want to know what it tastes like. I want to know what the texture is. I want to know what it smells like. The guy at your table, that I'm not being judgmental. You hand me a bread roll, and you're like, hey, this is my great grandmother's recipe. Again, it's not judging. I want to smell it. I want to see how it tears open. I want to understand it, right? I want to study it. And if you have that question, ask it. What would a little bit more salt do? What would cumin do? What would smoked versus sweet versus Hungarian paprika do?
Right.
Try it. Even if it's just a taste, or if it's just a little piece on a little bit of meat that you sear off, whatever. I see people making sausages, and they go through all this work and all this labor and all this planning and everything. And hell, they don't even stop the mixture and throw some in a frying pan before they start casing it.
Yeah.
What's that going to taste like? It's going to be fine. I'll follow the recipe.
Yeah.
Okay.
You sure? Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's a great question. Are you sure you followed it? You got
Yeah.
teaspoon versus tablespoon right? You didn't skip anything, whatever. it's one of those where that's great. And was that recipe correct? Have you ever had this recipe before?
Yeah.
Like personally done this recipe before? Because sometimes it just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. Nobody knows what it is. Sometimes the seasonings get absorbed. Sometimes the meat has a different flavor. Well, let's take wild boar, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, what kind of boar is it?
Yeah.
The ones that you're shooting in Texas are vastly different than the one they're going to shoot out here in East Tennessee.
Yes.
I mean, the East Tennessee ones are Russian cross, and some of them get near red as a Coke can in the meat and have a different flavor. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Right. But that doesn't mean that your sausage recipe is going to work for me.
Right. Right.
It doesn't mean it's not, but I got to try it.
Yeah.
So tasting in every step of the way, not just at the end. Taste.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be scared. Like, how you find out how much is too much salt? You oversalt something.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right.
But that's it. And don't be, if something calls for a tablespoon of salt, don't be like, oh man, Chef Bolus said to get heavy with it. Let's go a half cup. Stand down. Stand down for a second. But go heavier. Go a heavy tablespoon. Hell, go a tablespoon and a half, right? Like just baking something different. So we're just talking about like, culinary stuff. But don't be scared. I just did an elk hunt. And we were cooking up some stuff for dinner. I was cooking stuff up for dinner the first night. And the guys were all excited. What do you need? And they're pulling all the ingredients from me from the lodge. And my hunting partner was there. This guy's an old Navy guy. And so he's always, what do you need? What's next? What's next? What's next?
Yeah.
And I started sprinkling a little cinnamon on the elk. Again, you thought I said something about somebody's wife. Everybody says like,
what are you doing?
Shit just got weird. I don't know if I want any part of this. Like, okay, hold on. First of all, who's cooking this? And particularly my hunting partner is like, do you trust what I'm doing? He's like, I do.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward to 2 days ago, and I got a picture of part of the cows that we shot. And he's cooking up for him and his wife, his 2 daughters, his in-laws. They're all in town. And he's got this whole tray of elk, right? And he's cooking. He's like, dude, cinnamon blew their mind. I said, exactly.
Exactly.
Who would have thought,
that's my point.
Thought cinnamon on their meat, and they're like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like,
yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. But you've tested it, you've done it, you've done all the legwork.
That's it. And one of my first food memories is a Lebanese dish called kibbeh. And my grandfather, God rest his soul, was a true if you want to say misogynistic Lebanese man, right? I'm the male child of one of his male children. I'm the only one to carry on the Bolus name. That was the most important thing.
Yeah.
So he would make this dish for us whenever I saw him. And that's the one flavor that everybody pulls out of it, but nobody can identify, right? It's the one that takes this from just a beef tartare to something amazing.
Yeah.
And it was like, I know what it is, but they can never guess it. And as soon as you say cinnamon, it's like, oh my God, that's it.
That's it.
People say, I've always put it in my chili. Well, why wouldn't you put it on your steak then?
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense. Or your pot roast, and so things like that. Again, worst case scenario, you're going to screw up a pot roast, right? Or a flank steak or whatever. And you're going to have to order pizza. So what? If you knew the amount of food that I threw out.
Well, that's the thing.
It doesn't mean that everything that I put my hands on comes out good, because that's just false.
No, and that's everyone. And that's a great lesson, because it's guys that are novices, guy like myself that think they're pretty good and probably are okay. And then there's the guys like you and women like you that are at an altogether different level. Everyone has a little bit of anxiety when they plate their food, and everyone has thrown away food.
Hands down. Absolutely. And as a young chef, arrogant, this is one of the greatest things I've ever learned. A young chef will always seek to add to a dish. An older chef seeks to remove from a dish. And to me, that's it. If I'm serving you wild boar or elk or venison or Cheerios, I don't give a shit. What is the least amount that I need to do to this for you to be blown away by it?
To enhance it. Yeah.
And that's it. I don't need to serve you a tomato that's in a cloud wrapped in a sugar bubble that you have to shoot from the sky. Sounds fun. But if it's a farm fresh egg, what if it is just a slice of tomato on a piece of toast and a fried egg?
Yeah.
Like that's it. So to me, I'm always looking for the most simplistic way to enhance it, to make it amazing. Um, but I'm not scared to try. And if you got to throw a piece away, throw a piece away. And so to me, that's, if you're butchering an animal, that's what a lot of your scraps can be. Your
Yeah.
testers, try
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely. And I can tell you and I, there's a certain train of thought that we both share. I will try anything. You've traveled all over the world. You can maybe see all these credentials
Yeah.
behind you from my day job. That's
Yeah.
Olympics and World Cup and Pan American Games and all that stuff from
Yeah.
Italy and Argentina and France and Germany and Cuba and all this. Your
Yeah.
travels, how have they? Because I tell people all the time. I think eating off a spetto in Mar del Plata, Argentina. I still do some of the stuff that I learned there from that meal. What about your travels and how it affects you?
Hands down, it teaches you one of the best seafood meals I ever had. I was in Malta, and I don't know if you've ever been there.
Mm-hmm.
Truly magnificent place. And I got there because we would go down to the airport, and basically it's like, hey, go to British Airways or wherever, and there's four of us, and we got 5 days off. We need the cheapest return tickets you got.
Mm-hmm.
And over there, you can travel really cheap like that. And one day the lady said, hey, it's 25 pounds a piece. You're going to Malta. Oh, yeah, great.
Okay.
And I'm getting on the plane. I turn around to my buddy. We said, what the hell is Malta? He's like, I never heard of it. No. There's four of us.
Yeah.
They were flying as my girlfriend, myself, my buddy Stan, and another person. And it's like, okay, well, there's the Alps. Yep, pretty sure that's Italy. All right, that's the Mediterranean. And we land, and I get on the phone with my mom on the cell phone. All the AT&T had cut all phone operations there, so you lose your landline at all. Just cell phones. It's 30 pounds a minute at the time.
Oh gosh.
And it's standing on the top of my hotel. I said, I am in Malta. She said, oh, it's awesome. Hey, where's Malta? I was like, I don't know. From one side, they had those little coin viewers, right? On the top of the hotel. I said, from one side, I can see Sicily. From the other side, I can see Libya. And she said, what's wrong with you? So I'll be back in 5 days. I love you. Just hung up. So this place has been conquered by everybody, all right? Which is why I'm talking about it. The Romans, the Greeks, the Arabs, the Nazis, the Moors, the British,
Mm-hmm.
were the last kind of rulers of it. So this influence, this global influence of food, even in their language, is insane. And we asked the guy, I think is where we were staying, where he would take his family. We went up this little seafood restaurant, and the cockles, the snails, the seafood that I'm having, it's their flavor, their texture. I've never experienced anything like this in my life. And so, a little liquid courage, I'll be honest.
Sure.
And a little culinary school arrogance. I said, I'm gonna go talk to the chef. I mean, I'm in culinary school, but
I'm Matt Bolus.
I got the credentials here.
That's right.
And so I loosely walked back and found the kitchen. Guys in a pair of cut off sweatpants.
Mm-hmm.
You're not allowed to call them wife beater anymore. What is it? A ribbed tee?
Yeah,
a ribbed tank. Excuse me.
Yeah.
That didn't quite cover his belly button. And smoking a 100 cigarette with about this much ash on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, okay, well, unexpected, but let's talk about this. So every morning he goes down to the market and buys fresh seafood. And if he can't find what he's looking for, he walks back from the market to the restaurant along the beach where he'll find the mussels and cockles and clams and stuff.
Oh,
like that.
wow.
I'd never experienced anything like that before.
Mm-hmm.
This is when this is in 02, 03. The French Laundry's getting big. These kind of names, the Eric Roberts, the Daniel Boulus, they're bringing that to America because that's how they grew up. I never experienced that before. And so, that to me is one of those, like, yeah,
it was an aha moment. Yeah.
That kind of freshness, that kind of farm to table, field to table, sea to table, that the game changer, an absolute game changer. And you want the best sushi you'll ever have. Next time you go deep sea fishing, you slice that first fish in, you take the fillet off.
Done
And
it. Done it.
that poor fish is staring at you while you're slicing the other side of him up and eating it. And it's completely different, right?
Yep.
It's not like any fish I don't care how much you pay in Japan. It's completely different. And so, yeah, that, little things like that kind of start you on that path of how you want to do things.
But these are things that our listeners, people listening to this podcast, can learn from, because it is, you talked about the simplicity of what you're putting in a dish, but also the purity or quality maybe of the actual protein or ingredient, the main ingredient.
I tell you what's funny, John. So I had to go on a pig hump with this charity that I work with. And the old dog runners used to laugh at me. Why are you butchering these things? It's so boring. It tastes horrible. It's the last time you eat one. Well, hell, I never eaten that.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple years back, the owner and I were out on basically a scouting run, and I just got a new optic system, and we were goofing off with it, and we see one pretty far out, and I popped her. Right, perfect, clean shot, dead in the middle, flipped her over, never moved. So we went and got her, brought her back, perfect, like 55, kind of 60-pound boar, and or sow, and again the dog guys, I'm out there skinning her, Donor and Brian, they're like, "The hell are you doing, man?" So Clint wakes me up the next morning. We're getting ready for the morning hunt, and it's about 4:30. We light the big green egg, get it going nice and good. We get this thing put on there, wrapped up. We don't tell anybody. Just shut the lid, right? Made sure the temperature's dialed in. We take off on the morning hunt. Spend all morning out there hunting. And he and I politely excuse ourselves early, like, "Hey, we're going to get back and get lunch started for everybody." And we get back, and this thing is just falling off the bone.
Yes, sir.
And Clint's like, "Hey, we ought to set out just like this." It's not, hell no. These guys aren't going to eat this. They're just going to, raise hell, whatever. So we shredded, just broke off limbs and whatnot. And so you knew it was pig, but they weren't thinking, crushed it. They just smashed it.
That's awesome.
I'm out there laughing. I'm like, "You know what you're eating, guys?" I told them, like, "There's no way in hell that's what this is." And the owner came out and said, "Guys, listen, I cooked it with them.
Yeah.
I shot it with them. I cleaned it. Like, that's exactly what it is." So now, every year we're doing that. And I did it last year on a bear hunt. The first bear that went down, I the next day I cooked the shoulder up for dinner. And I dropped the deer that day and cleaned it up and showed guys how to butcher stuff in a lot more, giving way to provide better cuts, to provide, something more than a backstrap and a tenderloin, and a bunch of grind, and cooked all this up for them. Hell, I showed them how to make bear cracklings. I made about 4 gallons of bear cracklings, and everybody there was eating them, which is great. It's a great compliment. What got me was the 6-year-old and 9-year-old little girls.
Oh, nice.
Sat at the breakfast bar with me, just eating handfuls of bear crackling. And I was like, "Hey, you know what? If I can make you two like them, then done." And even the owner's like, "Nobody's ever cooked like this before."
That's awesome.
We just send meat home and assume people are going to do it, and the reality is we think they're going to throw it away. It's like,
yeah, who knows? Yeah,
I want to change that.
Yeah, well, that's like me. I had a very similar story with cabrito. We have a big tamale party every year, which is coming up here in the next week or two for Christmas. And one of them is venison tamales, which people a lot of times that eat those don't even know, but until after. But cabrito too, they were like, "These are the best tacos. These are the best fajitas I've ever had." I was like, "Well, it's not fajita, but let's go there because that's something." It's not fajitas, and then they didn't care because they liked them. But anyway. You mentioned field to table. You've already talked about hogs and elk and bear and quail and venison. But that again, trying to think for our listeners, they maybe they're in that group where it's like, well, what do I do with this? But what's the main attraction and the benefit of going field to table?
Well, the whole thing to me is one, you're outdoors. I mean, and I don't think we're meant to be in offices. I just, we're animals too. And yeah, a lot of people got to be in offices. The work's got to be done. I get it. So you're kind of connecting with the earth again, when you're out there in the field and the fresh air and everything. This animal, there's no antibiotics, there's no hormones, there's no, I hate to say it, there's no bullshit in this animal. They're out there eating what they were intended to eat. They're foraging. They're, especially on some of these big properties that you can hunt on. Hell, they've hardly ever seen another human. I feel better when I eat game. I could sit down and say, okay, John, for a week, I'm going to eat this great beef or pork or whatever you want, chicken. And then the next week, you just kind of write down 1 to 10 how I'm feeling, energy wise, productivity, thoughts, whatever. The next week, do that with game and do the same thing. And everything will be better. I'll sleep better. No indigestion or very little, if any. Better energy level, better cognition, all of that. And to me, I think that comes from the naturalness of it. To the I feel better when I take an animal down and use everything on it, right? Because again, I'm not a backstrap fillet guy. I want to break these things down. I want wraps. I want T-bones, porterhouses. I want sausages, whatever. But I'm also, everybody I knew growing up would pop legs off and immediately cut the Achilles tendon and throw it away. I take that tendon and throw it in with the bones so I can, get all that collagen, all that gelatin out of there. And you can take those things too when you cook them and they get nice and tender. Dry them out in your fridge, right? Just let them sit uncovered. Slice them super thin and throw them in your fryer. And they'll puff up like pork rinds.
Now that I've never even heard.
So I want to use everything and almost to, making things hard on myself. But I don't want to throw anything away at all. I want the liver. I want the heart. I want, anything in the kidneys that I can use. And it's great that some of it goes out in the field and feeds other animals. That's part of nature as well.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a sustainability too. There's a lot of animals out there that we hunt and it's kind of taken as that's a rich man's sport. It's like, well,
yeah,
there's not, because there's a lot of places out west right now that the elk are overwhelming the mule deer, right? And so whitetail and mule deers don't get along. Muleys come in number, whitetails leave. Whitetails come in number, muleys leave. The big old elk come in, which are just another of the venison family. People don't forget about that. Hell, both the deer leave. And so, it's one of those that we as humans have stepped in and said, oh no, we're going to protect these animals. And there is a degree of that needed. But we need to remember what the protection's for, right? It's for the health of the animal, the health of the land, the health of the herd. Not because I think hunting is right and you think hunting is wrong. It can't be for that. It can't be for either way. I want to hunt more. You don't want to hunt at all. Who gives a damn what we want?
Yeah.
What does nature need? And right now in a lot of places, nature needs us to take some animals out.
Yeah.
And I hate that in a lot of places we can't donate them to a homeless shelter or sell them at restaurants or sell them at butcher shops. I think a lot more people would be into it. That aren't necessarily into hunting, but are okay with eating meat.
Yeah.
I think they would very much support it, and maybe support hunting even more, maybe even be okay with hunting more when they realize, hey, actually, this is beneficial to everybody. And I have a regular source of red meat that I can feed my family. The land is improving, the health of these animals is improving. You can see it in the quality of the meat. I think more people will be into it.
What about the process? To me, and I'm more of a fisherman than a hunter, but I do eat a lot of venison down here and and hog, etc. But it's generally from a buddy, that's hunting it and gives it to me because he knows how much I like it. But I'm more of a fisherman. But the process to me is as much part of the experience of ultimately taking a fork full of it as anything.
I agree.
Would you? Yeah,
I agree. And you think about it, like growing up, and your parents used to say, hey, when you work for something, you appreciate it more. When you save your money and buy that car, you keep it cleaner, or you drive it easier. your first house you buy, the grass is always mowed, everything's perfect. It's the same thing. You got up at the crack of dawn to make it out on this boat or to get into the stand. You're out in the freezing cold or the searing hot, because I love deep sea fishing. I absolutely love it. And while everybody assumes it's fun, there's a lot of hard work that goes into it.
Yes.
I mean, you're out in the middle of the ocean and the boat's doing this, right? And it's 106 degrees out. And you can't decide, do I just want to jump off and die? Do I want to try and vomit until actually like my feet come out of my mouth? Oh shit, there's a fish on the line. Not, and then you're
yeah. Oh, well, that changed.
and you get back and you're just, you're full of adrenaline, everything's great. And then you sit down and it's just like this immediate just crash. Well, and it's the same thing with hunting. You're sitting in that tree stand and nothing and nothing and nothing, and then the sun's going down, and for me, I'm always that's when I start second guessing, like, oh, should I go onto the other stand?
Yeah.
How far out can I still see in my optic? And then you get real quiet because that's when they come out. And within, hours of sitting there, within 6 minutes, the battle's over.
Yeah.
And 1, 2, 3 of them have dropped, whatever. And it sounds sick, but it's this euphoria.
Yeah.
Right. It's this accomplishment. It's this, I don't know if it's, this instinct, this kind of savage, whatever, but it is, you feel it. It's like,
I did it. You're saying I did it.
I'm getting a game plan while I'm sitting in the stand. I'm getting a game plan of, I want this, I want this, I want this. I'm going to, I got this pot ready to go. I'm going to do it over here. All these things. And I want to do that because, again, I want to honor the animal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to feed people. And I want to Whoop, I lose you?
I guess it was I don't know what happened, but anyway, you said you want to feed people, and we'll pick it up from there.
Yeah, I want to feed people. I want to pass the knowledge on. I can teach you how to butcher a deer different than you've ever butchered one before, right? That's fantastic. And then you're going to teach that to, your kid or a couple of their friends, or some of your friends, and they teach it to their kids and a couple of their friends, and this just keeps expanding and expanding. And one day we don't see animals that are just shot for head and hide.
Yeah.
I don't, one thing I love it when I plan a deep sea fishing trip and I get on the phone with the captain and like, well, the tarpon are running at this time and the blast. Listen, man, I don't need a fake balsa wood fish that's been airbrushed on my wall.
Yeah.
I want a freezer full of dinner. And the conversation immediately changes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, what kind of fish do you like to eat? Like, I'm a chef, I love triggerfish is my favorite fish to catch, cook, and clean. I love sheep's head. I love all these, like, okay, this is a completely different thing. Like, let's do this, and then we'll go into this, and and it's not a brag to me. It's a blessing. It's like most of the time I go out, we limit out in at least a couple of the different fish that we're allowed to catch, and that's great to me because I can go home and feed everybody I'm with and still put some in the freezer. And I love too when we get back to the dock and most other people are
taking pictures.
I'm the guy with a glove on and a knife and digging in the fish, and the captain and first mate are both like, what are you doing? I'm cleaning fish, guys. I'm showing them, and I want to skin on. I'm showing them how to scale stuff real quick and do that. And it's like, this never happens. I'm like, I get that.
Yeah.
But we still like, look, I've been in the sun all day. I'm sunburned. I'm
Yeah.
dehydrated. Like, I need
Yeah.
y'all to pick the pace up and clean the shit. Let's go. But to me,
Man.
it's about passing that knowledge on. It's about, like you said, the process from
Mm-hmm.
start to stop. You're a part of it all. You're a part of the harvesting. You're a part of the butchering. You're a part of the cooking, and you're a part of the eating.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any more honest, if you will, because it's the only way I know to put it. That is the most honest meal you'll ever have,
That is,
right? And
yeah.
if you do it simple, if you do it with a buddy of yours that's got a nice garden, and he's got some, in the summertime, you bring some fish back, and he's got some cucumbers and some tomatoes and some herbs, and you just make this light salad, pan through this fish, and throw it on top. Shit, that's it. I mean, done. You don't need anything else, and you'll eat that meal. Your body will be more than satisfied. Your soul will be more than satisfied,
Mm-hmm.
and you literally go to bed that night dreaming of the next trip that you can do that with.
That's awesome. And before we let you go here, I wanted to hit two things here real quick.
Yeah.
We have a lot of listeners all over the country. You go to Nashville, you go to 404 Kitchen, and I
Yep.
heard you have Big Green Eggs in the
Yeah,
404 Kitchen.
we do. Well, we have them outside.
Okay,
But yeah, we cook on them 6-7 days a week.
that's fantastic.
We are on them all the time. Fried chicken's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Quick technique. Your grandmother didn't fry chicken perfectly, right? She
Mm-hmm.
told you she did. She lied, and I don't know that for a fact. But we lie in the restaurant business because I don't want to count on the timing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to make sure that the cook is doing it perfectly, the fryer is working perfectly, the timing is perfect. Like, there's a lot of different scenarios. Stop it. Take as many variables as you can. Pre-cook your chicken, right? That way, all you're doing is heating it and crisping it, making sure
Mm-hmm.
it's perfect. But when you're going to pre-cook your chicken, pre-cook it in a way that's going to stay juicy and tender. And birds are different. Legs, they don't tenderize until 168. Breasts, they dry out at 151. And so how do you do this? Well,
Mm-hmm.
slow everything down. Throw it on, and you can do it in your oven, but it tastes better. You throw it on your Big Green Egg.
Yeah.
Cook the whole thing at 220 degrees until the entire bird's 168.
Do you spatchcock it?
We spatchcock it, drop it on there, chill it down, break it into your pieces, buttermilk, flour, throw it in a 360-degree fryer for 6 minutes directly out of the fridge. It'll come out lava damn hot. Okay, don't think this is crispy and immediately edible. It is hot as it can be, but it's still juicy. It's tender. It's also got all this amazing grill flavor.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with turkeys, low and slow. I've also found out that you can put about 2.5 pounds of butter in a 20-pound turkey.
How'd you find that
out? Well, you try, right?
Yeah,
you
exactly.
try until butter is literally seeping out of every pore in this bird. But you cook this thing low and slow. And what it does, imagine your fingers are your muscle fibers, right? When you throw something on really, really hot, they tense up like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can think about when you look at your hand, when you're squeezing it that hard, it's just pushing the color, right? When you rest stuff, it relaxes. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so if you take the same thing cold again and you put it on a medium heat, it just barely curls up. And then when you rest it, it's like this. All those juices stay in there, and it keeps it tender. You cook it to whatever temperature you want. It's the same technique as the barbecue guys use. We're just doing it on a much lower final temperature, and it works amazing.
And then the fry. That's a technique that we can use.
Yeah.
That's a technique that we can definitely use.
Well, and that's the thing. You're always going to have perfect fried chicken. You're never going to have undercooked or overcooked,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you can do it. Hey, you're cooking for 20 people, man. Do you want to do all those fried chickens right now? You can't do it at home. It'd kill your fryer. Pre-cook it, get some stuff out of the way. Now you're good to go.
And then just go.
That's it. 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes. Done. You cook a bird in your fryer. You got 30 minutes. You got 5 hot birds. You're good to go.
Yeah. Dang, that's good. Before we let you go, I always like to, again, 404 Kitchen, and you have another establishment as well. Is that correct?
Gertie's Whiskey Bar. Yeah.
Gertie's Whiskey Bar.
Yeah, we've got bourbon and whiskey is another passion and hobby, if you will. And so in Louisville, we've got Gertie's Whiskey Bar. We got a speakeasy downstairs, which is 160-ish year old cellar that was we think it was an old rum running tunnels. And then in Nashville, we've got the Whiskey Wall, which has just under 700 selections to choose from.
That's awesome. And I want to ask you real quick about Tomahawk Charitable Solutions before we let you go. I always like people to talk about some of the things, because it's such a great community, man. You know, whether it's a chef or a barbecue pit master or whatever, that always are giving back. So I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, it is. So Tomahawk is a military-based charity founded by a bunch of former special operators. It started out as really just money for the families of fallen operators, and two wonderful things happen. One, these operators, they don't go down much, right? And two, Tomahawk started raising so much money that they were able to branch out to all military branches as well as first responders. And so it's 100% in and out. They don't take a dollar. The big charity that I was telling you about, the one that we shot the elk for. So Pat Martin, who's a big pit master in Nashville, you ought to get a hold of him. He's a fantastic man, fantastic human being. He and I donate all the food and time there, and then their for-profit company pays the rest of the bills, but it raised $1.3 million.
Oh wow!
At the charity, and so that goes to a lot of people. That goes to a lot of the PTSD treatments. That goes to a lot of families. That goes to a ton of recuperation for people that we need to take care of, and unfortunately don't in a lot of ways. So and plus it helps me get out, not only get to hunt and to cook for these people and these veterans, but I get to learn a lot from them.
Sure.
I can show them how to cut a mule deer up. They can show me how to build a hide and take a animal or person down at 1,000 yards efficiently. So
or a person, yeah, it's true. I mean, when you're right, you're right. When you're right, you're right.
Right? And so it's one of those that it's been that's been the really a meaningful charity that I've been working with for the last 7 years, and one that I plan to continue until either the day they stop or the day I can't do it anymore.
Man, this has been fantastic. Went a little bit long, but I don't care. I don't know if you do or not. But
no, I wanted to. Man, I'm not schlepping boxes right now.
Exactly. Either this or move. We'll take this. Matt, really appreciate it. There's all kinds of other things that I know we can talk about. So maybe down the road we will do that. I'll hit up Pat Martin. I'll get his information from you later. But this has been Matt Bolus, 404 Kitchen. Go see him. He's fantastic. Very educational, especially as it goes from field to table, and the passion you have for that. It's very, very clear. Really appreciate it, man.
John, thank you so much.
Thank you. Coming up next, we're going to have the Smoking Hot Tip of the Week, and that is going to be with Tyler Gurney over at Texas Star Grill Shop.